In Brazil, President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva led the relaunching of the National Industrial Development Council to recover the country's competitiveness in world markets. The Minister of Mines and Hydrocarbons of Equatorial Guinea, Antonio Oburu, points out in an exclusive interview for teleSUR that the energy transition is key for improving people's lives. Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi said on Thursday that he was planning to sign a security agreement with South Africa as militias continue to occupy sections of the eastern part of the country. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. Brazilian President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva led the relaunching of the National Industrial Development Council to recover the country's competitiveness in the world markets. During the meeting, the head of state affirmed that the government will promote a new industrial revolution in order to make the sector more competitive, which he considered key for the economic and social development. He also highlighted the commitment to provoke a tax reform on the need to deal with the correlation of forces. The president regretted that in recent years the sector have been discouraged by policies that promoted imports. The Argentinian government announced that the official inauguration of the Ernesto Kirchner gas pipeline will be on July the 9th. According to authorities, the inauguration will take place in the city of Sayiquello during the 207th anniversary of Argentina's Independence Day. President Alberto Fernandez, Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, and the Union for the Homeland's presidential candidate Sergio Massa are expected to attend the ceremony. The event will be the operations of the crucial project for the country's energy supply and foreign currency income. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres accused Israel of using disproportional forces against Palestinian groups in a recent raid and warned against escalating the violence. The Israeli raid involving hundreds of forces, drone strikes, and armored bulldozers targeted the West Bank city of Jenin, a center for multiple armed Palestinian groups. The UN chief called Israeli airstrikes and ground operations the worst violence in the West Bank in many years, with a significant impact on civilians, including more than 100 injured and thousands forced to flee.
All acts of violence against civilians, including acts of terror. Israel's airstrikes and ground operations in a crowded refugee camp were the worst violence in the West Bank in many years, with a significant impact on civilians, including more than 100 injured and thousands forced to flee.
In Cuba, the Serpent Parade took place as part of the celebration of the Caribbean Festival, one of the most popular and important of the island. The Cespedes Park in the city of Santiago de Cuba was overflowed with signing and the references to the deities of the Yoruba Pantheon was not left out. With the petition for the welfare of the city, they opened this great celebration for the people of Santiago. Likewise, events delivered offerings of brotherhood and protections to the highest authorities of the party and the government in Santiago, among them the cultural attaché of the Mexican embassy in Cuba, Santiago Rui, my partner. Finally, personalities from different nations such as Dominican Republic, Colombia, Haiti, Martinique, Antigua and Bermuda, among others. Let's take a very short break, but remember you can now follow us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. From Austria, the Minister of Mines and Hydrocarbons of Equatorial Guinea, Antonio Oburu, held an exclusive interview with our special envoy, Jorge Gestoso. Let's see.
We have the honor to have as an interviewee Mr. Antonio Oburu, Minister of Oil of Guinea Equatorial. Mr. Oburu, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
The theme of this seminar, we're talking about towards the transition, the energy transition, and they're putting emphasis in renewable, sustainable, and inclusive energy.
Correct.
But is it really, or we can do it all countries at the same speed, or what?
Yeah, what I'm saying, it's a very interesting debate, right? And it's a very interesting trend. Today we have to talk about energy transition. And this is something that countries should not neglect, especially small countries, especially producing small countries as Equatorial Guinea that are developing countries. We tend to neglect the debate because we think it has nothing to do with us. Well, that is very important not to neglect. We all at some point going to have to debate that. We all at some point going to have to go through that. But what I'm saying is that we have different speeds. There should be different speeds. There is not one size of energy transition that fits everybody, right? Because the speed has to do with the level of development of the countries. Let's not forget that when we talk about energy transition, we're talking about improving people's life, right? The energy transition or not energy transition should make sure that you not improve people's life. So the sort of energy that we have and the sort of energy that the countries that are very good in solar energy and wind energy, that's the energy that they have. We should make sure that people have access to the energy that the country have. So it's good to talk about energy transition, but let's make sure that whatever energy we have, we make sure that people can have access to that. And then we progress toward a net zero equation. That doesn't mean we're taking fossil fuels out of the picture.
And the discussion about that is in the hands or in the words of the basically the countries that are producing oil, or there are new actors that are discussing different speed and not really a participant in that.
You know what's been happening is that a couple of years ago, let's say for the last 3, 4, 5 years, the debate is being going on not exactly with the producing countries, right? What's happening here today, what is really important to me about what's happening is that OPEC has to make its voice heard. Producing countries need to talk about energy transition and they need to lead the debate, right? Because they know about energy, they know about the implication of making people to have access energy, right? We need to make sure that our people access energy. Our businesses, they have to access energy. So it is very important OPEC countries or oil producing countries be part of the debate to make sure that, you know, the economies and their people have access to some sort of energy. And that sort of energy is the energy that they have, right? Obviously, as I was saying before, we need to progress to a net zero equation. That doesn't mean we're taking fossil fuels out, but we need to combine them.
Finally, we're talking here that the bottom line, that the basically the producers of oil reassemble in OPEC. Basically, they're trying to push the stability of the energy markets.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and that's very important. Why we're talking about the stability of the energy markets? Let me go back to what I was saying, because countries and governments, they need to make sure that they improve the life of people. You know, we need to make sure that we improve their life. We need to make sure that the country that is doing the economic planning, they need to have certainty. The country that is doing their budgets, they need to have certainty. You need certainty in your economic planning, you need it in your budget. Without certainty in your energy and in your economic planning, you cannot protect people's interests. You cannot protect people's life. Now, how do you make sure that you have certainty in your economic planning? How do you make sure? You have to be sure that you're going to have certainty in the market, because you can have a big production, but if you have a lot of volatility, if the market, you have a lot of uncertainty, then you're not going to be able to plan your economy. That is why to have certainty in the markets, to have an organization that is able to impact on that certainty is very important. And that's why I was saying yesterday that the bigger OPEC is, the better, because we're going to have a bigger organization, and therefore we're going to have an organization that is able to impact more on the markets, and therefore to make sure that there is more stability.
Mr. Antonio Oburu, thanks very much for joining us.
It was a great pleasure. Pleasure's mine. Thank you.
Russian spokesman Igor Konashenko said that the long-range weapons aimed at Ukraine were intended to destroy weapons lines from the west. Russian armed forces carried out on Thursday a large-range precision attack from the sea to destroy a warehouse of weapons sent by the West. On the other hand, the Ukrainian authorities reported that after the Russian operation, 4 people were killed and several wounded. The Russian government repeatedly emphasized that any weapon from the West on Ukrainian territory with where the purpose will be destroyed. NATO's ultimate attempt to remove Turkey's veto on Sweden's entry into the military bloc has failed. At a meeting at the Atlantic Alliance headquarters in Brussels, Ankara refuses to lift its veto of Stockholm despite pressure from Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg and U.S. President Joe Biden. Despite the results, Stoltenberg called an emergency meeting on July 10 between Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Swedish Premier Ulf Kristersson to secure Sweden's membership in the alliance.
In April, we welcomed Finland into the NATO family. This has been a game changer for our shared security. And now it is time for Sweden to join the alliance. I have been clear that Sweden has delivered on the commitments it made under the trilateral memorandum. Sweden has amended its constitution and introduced new anti-terrorist legislation, removed restrictions on arms exports to Turkey, and stepped up counter-terrorism cooperation, including against PKK. In the meeting, we all agreed that we have made good progress. We all agreed that the full membership of Sweden is in the security interest of all allies. And we all want to complete this process as soon as possible.
We'll take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our interviews, stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate this notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. When final break, don't go away. Welcome back. Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi said on Thursday that he was planning to sign a security agreement with South Africa as the militias continue to occupy the stretches of the eastern part of the country. The Congolese president made the announcement during a news conference held in the country's capital with the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa after both leaders met on Thursday at the nation's presidential palace. Tshisekedi said the accord could take the form of a mutual defense pact and highlight the mutual defense pact of the Southern African Development Community as a potential model without going into details.
These concerns for the security and stability of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So we really dwelt on this point and he showed a keen desire to support the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we are even considering perhaps having bilateral agreements in addition to what exists at the level of the SADC on the subject of mutual support between states if one of them is under attack.
As President Tshisekedi says, on the issue of security, South Africa has been heavily invested and heavily present in the DRC on the eastern side, and we are also going to strengthen that relationship by having a bilateral agreement on security and defense.
President Tshisekedi stressed the need of integration of the African continent.
Africa is a continent of nearly 2 billion people, a market of nearly 2 billion people, and if we solve the problem of continental integration, I believe we will become an economic and commercial power that will rival the other economic and commercial powers of the world.
On the other hand, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa spoke about reactivating the project of building hydroelectric power plants proposed to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a call upon the international financing institutions to fund a project that will supply energy and electricity to many countries.
Through this BNC, we have now recommitted ourselves to reviving the Grand Inga project. I spoke about it in Europe a few days ago and called upon the world, particularly the financing institutions, to help fund this mega project. This we see as a continental project because the power that will be generated from the Grand Inga is going to supply energy and electricity to many countries around the DRC. South Africa certainly is going to benefit, and so will a number of other countries.
At least 17 people, including 3 children, were killed in South Africa by the leak of a toxic gas used by illegal miners to process gold in the settlements of a closely packed metal sack. Emergency services initially announced that as many as 24 people might be dead in the Angelo settlements in Brokord, a city of the eastern outskirts of Johannesburg. But police later said that the number of deaths had been confirmed as 17 after a recount of bodies. However, teams were searching the area looking for other casualties deep into the night.
These were scattered literally everywhere. And I want to thank our team because they know exactly where each body was. And they know exactly how that particular body arrived where it was. So I thought initially it was just an explosion in one area, but you can see people were running away from the scene, and then they started to fall as they tried to get areas where they can escape.
Preliminary investigations done indicate that there is illegal mining activity that is taking place here. You would have seen by now the police have removed so many cylinders of gas and still removing equipment and dismantling the illegal processing plants that are here.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm from the South, Tamara Marrero. Thank you for watching.